Welcome to the Real Estate Masters Podcast, where we interview the top names in the real estate game. If you want to grow your real estate business, see more podcasts, or get free resources, go to www.remcommunity.com. The only podcast that allows you to directly connect with the guests and many of the highest level names in the real estate game.
You are in for a treat with our next guest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to go to remcommunity.com to connect with some of the highest level real estate professionals in the United States through our community and through our high level masterminds. Let's go. All right, we got a bunch of people hopping on here.
Awesome.
And I think we are going live as well. So welcome everybody. For those of you that are in my TV or mastermind program, you know who I'm interviewing today. For those of you who are not in those groups, we have a great surprise guest, which is now not a surprise, Lauren Hardy, who is going to talk to us today about virtual wholesaling. Most of you guys know Lauren. She is the host of the Wholesaling Inc podcast, which is one of the top real estate podcasts in the country. And she is the top virtual wholesaling coach in the United States. So I don't know anybody else who's coaching as many people as she is. And she's not only coaching, but she also, walks the walk. She talks the talk, but walks the walk because she's investing in multiple markets herself. So I'm looking forward to diving in on how she sets up her markets, picks her markets, sets up her team, all that kind of good stuff. And I thought this would be a great call for my TV clients as well as my mastermind people, but I'm streaming this live now on Facebook. So all my people that follow me can see this as well. So if you guys have any questions, type them in the chat box. And I think I've got a Zoom link on Facebook too, if you guys want to join the conversation later. I'm going to bring some people in to ask some questions and kind of deep dive. And I see several of my TV people jumping on here that are investing in multiple markets with TV. So I would love for some of you guys to jump in and conversate. So again, chat box, if you have any questions, raise your hand if you want to be part of the conversation later. So without further ado, Lauren Hardy, what is going on?
What's up? What's up, guys?
It's good to have you on. Thanks for doing this for my people.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me to meet your people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll just jump right in. If you know me, I'm kind of get to the point, so I'm not going to throw a lot of fluff into this. So you're investing in multiple markets. If you want to talk about those markets or talk about how many markets you're in, you could more than happy to dive into that. But what it comes down to is that you live in California like I do.
Yep.
Your market's super expensive, right? And competitive.
Right.
So you've decided to research other markets to figure out what is less competitive. And then, you do your market research. You kind of shared a little bit about that with me previously. So I'll let you kind of take it. So let us know kind of like how you pick your markets, how you set up your teams, and we'll just start diving in from there.
Yeah. So I guess let's first start with why I went virtual, because a lot of you might feel like you're in the same position. So when I first got started, I was in Southern California, and as the years went by, the market was increasing. So I first started when we were in the recession. So it was actually very easy to find distressed real estate. I didn't have to try that hard to find a motivated seller who wanted to give away their home.
Yep.
But every year, now this is starting, say like 2011, every year there was less and less distress. There was less properties at the courthouse steps. Sellers were not as motivated. So by about 2016, it got to where I had to spend a ton of money in marketing dollars to get that one deal. And I had to put a lot of effort to get that one deal. I was talking to hundreds of sellers to get one to say yes. Now, when one would say yes, typically the fee would be larger because these are bigger purchase price or larger purchase price properties. So, it felt like a big win. However, the dollars I had to spend and the amount of time I had to go without my next deal or knowing where my next deal was coming from was very unsettling for me. So I call it elephant hunting versus squirrel hunting. And in whether you fit the psychology for an elephant hunter versus a squirrel hunter That's up to you. But for me, I had mouths to feed. I was a single mom, still am. 2 girls, I had to pay for childcare and pay for a lot of things. So to go 3-4 months and not know when my next flip project was going to come or my next wholesale deal was going to come was very unsettling. And I had a lot of sleepless nights. Now, I noticed a trend. I noticed something. I was listening to all these podcasts, and these people on these podcasts were like, man, I'm closing 10 deals a month, or I'm closing 5 deals a month. And it was just so consistent for them. And yeah, maybe the wholesale fees were a little bit less, but when you calculated it all together, they were actually making more than me because they were doing volume to make up for it. So I thought about it and I go, what is the difference between them and me? And it was always where they were located. It was always the market they were in. So I did research on those markets. I would listen to a podcast. Somebody's killing it in, Philadelphia. I'd research about Philadelphia. Somebody's killing it in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'd research Little Rock, Arkansas. And the obvious difference was average purchase price in the area. That is the biggest, most obvious in your face difference between Little Rock in Southern California, say OC, San Diego. I'm from Orange County. Tony's from San Diego. We're neighbors. So our average house price is about $800,000. I haven't looked at it in a while, but about $800,000, I would say, Tony.
For starter home, by the way.
Yeah, right. Like you get a condo. So there's a big difference, right? So by 2016, it was a make or break point. It was either I'm going to have to go get a new job or something, like I'm going to have to figure something out because I can't live like this. Or I'm going to have to figure out a way to go out of state. At that time, nobody was teaching virtual. I think there was maybe a Chris Chico course on it, but it wasn't really a coaching program. And I got my hands on that course, but there wasn't a lot out there. Virtual wasn't really like a known thing, a known trendy word. So I had to put these pieces together myself. I thought about it, and I thought about how I work with California sellers. And California, if you guys haven't been here, we've got a serious traffic problem. So for me, I realized I was virtual before I was actually virtual. I was doing a lot of these things that I do now in out-of-state markets, working my own market because the traffic was so bad. So something I was doing is I was getting sellers to sign contracts over the phone already. I got good at that. I got good at speaking with sellers and just convincing them to trust me enough to sign the contract and then meet at their home, because I didn't want to sit in traffic for 4 hours to meet with a seller who wasn't that serious. So that was kind of the big thing, right? Like, how do you get a seller to sign over the phone? That's everybody's first thing that comes to them when they think about going virtuals. But wait, how do I lock up a deal I've never seen? How do I price it right? How do I get a seller to sign over the phone, right? So anyway, 2016, I decided I'm going to figure out how to go virtual on my own. And now herein lies the first mistake I made. So you talk about how to pick a market, right? Here's how I first picked a market. I took put a map on a board and took a little dart and just chucked it. Okay. And picked a market that way. Wherever the dart landed is where I was going.
So that's seriously how you picked your first market?
Not really, but I might as well have.
Okay.
That is how little, I had no training. I didn't know. So I just thought Nashville seems like a cool place to visit. That was it. It just seemed like, okay, this is a cool place to visit and homes are cheaper. And I was on vacation in Nashville. So I had a chance to drive around and see what the investment game was there. Like, what's everybody doing there? And it turned out it was actually a developer's market. So my first virtual venture was development. I was building new homes, and then I was wholesaling lots to home builders. That was just what you did there. So the reason it was my first mistake is because Nashville was also like the number one real estate market at that time. So like what I thought was a not very competitive market, it stayed that way for about 6 months. And then all of a sudden it was like blown out. I mean, impossible to compete with people that were local. Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, I would have picked a more balanced market. I would not have picked a market that is like in the news for some kind of, substantial development, some sort of boom for whatever reason. If I were to do that, it would be a short-term strategy. Like, oh, let's make some quick money in Nashville, right? For 6 months. But I didn't want a short-term strategy. Okay. I wanted a home. I wanted somewhere where I could stay for a while and just have that 4 to 5 deals a month consistency. So now with the knowledge, that took me, by the way, a couple of years to learn, I realized, I went back to the drawing board. I said, what are all like the correlations that I can put together of people that are doing really well in this business that seem to like not have to move around like I do and seem to get a consistent at least 5 deals a month. And I came to renters markets. So or landlord friendly markets where it makes sense to hold rentals. That's it. It's very simple.
And is that because you can potentially hold the properties if you want to, or because more investors are buying buy and hold properties, which can get you closer to retail value?
Neither.
Oh.
It's because properties that make sense as a rental is typically like when you hear in your head, what's a rent to price ratio that you'd like to be at if you were buying a rental? What's like the minimum rent to price ratio?
Yeah, it's usually 1% is the rule. If actually for me, it's probably more than that. I want a higher range, but for most investors, it's about 1%.
1%, like that's kind of the trendy number that floats around, right? Mm-hmm. So the 1% rule, that tells you a lot about what the average prices are probably in the area matched with the average rents. So let's go back to California. What do you think the rent to price ratio is in California?
It's like probably 0.6% or something like that.
Right. And like, yeah. So like, for example, I was renting a home that sold for $750. I was renting it for $3,000. If it followed the 1% rule, it should have rented for $7,500. Okay. So if any market follows the 1% rule, for the most part, usually the prices are lower. Mm-hmm. And when the prices are lower, typically there's less demand for housing, meaning that there's probably some more seller distress. There's probably some more motivated sellers there. You used the term blue collar markets. It's sort of like that. If you want to use that term, I typically just say, listen, I tell this to all my students when they pick markets. When the average price starts going above 200,000 in the area, that seller is a different type of seller you're talking to. It always works out this way. The seller typically has a little bit more money. They have a more stable job. They don't get themselves in as many problems. If they do get themselves in problems, they're more educated and they know how to get themselves out of it. Whereas when it's sub 200,000, you're just dealing with sellers that typically have more motivation.
Yeah, and if you're dealing with over 200,000, kind of like our markets, then the properties have appreciated a lot, and they know that, mm-hmm. and they're not in as much distress, right? Because they have more equity. They understand the market is hotter. Whereas a blue collar market, they may not be as educated in mm-hmm. how their market's doing, and like you said, the lower price points just breeds a different kind of mentality to the seller.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yep.
And one thing, I like to boil down our industry, kind of down to this, right? Real estate investing, house flipping, all investing is like buy low, sell high. And to be able to buy low, you need to be able to convince a seller to take a discount on their home. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. So find a place where it's easier to convince a seller to take a discount on their home. It's that simple. So in Southern California, sellers are very aware of the value of their house. They are like, you're not going to go to a seller in Southern California, New York, New Jersey, Seattle, Miami. Okay. You're not going to go up to these people and go, Mr. Seller, I've got an offer for you. It's all cash. I can close in 14 days. You don't even have to clean the house, okay? And I know your house, like you want $700,000 for your house, but listen, all cash, 14 days, no cleaning. You don't even have to hire a cleaner. I'm going to offer you 550,000. What, the seller would be a moron to take that offer, right?
Well, there are people that do that. So I'm not completely
No, I
disagreeing,
know.
but it is less likely.
It's
But,
yes,
but people in that situation are people that don't want to list on the MLS because they're
right.
embarrassed of their house. They don't want people coming through if they're living in it. There's just a lot of different reasons that a seller would want to sell in a higher price market like a San Diego or an Orange County. So it's not impossible, because I know there are some people on here that are
Sure.
wholesaling in those markets. It's just, if you're going to go out of market, then it makes more sense to pick a lower hanging fruit, is kind of what it comes down to.
Right. And this is where I get this sometimes every once in a while with like people online. They're like, but I know somebody who flips in California, blah, blah, blah. So did I. Up to 2 years ago, I was flipping houses in California. Okay. So do I. There's an exception to every rule, guys. I'm not saying this is everybody, everything. You need to listen to why I say I know everything. It's back to what I was saying in the beginning of this conversation with psychology. Are you an elephant hunter or are you a squirrel hunter? Do you want to deal with that type of seller who's really savvy and who knows what they're doing, knows the value of their home? Do you want to make 100 offers to get that one big deal? Do you want to go a little bit more time between deals? Most people that are starting out here, like SoCal type of market, and I'm just using SoCal, this could be anywhere in the country where it's pretty high priced, okay? When they're starting out, it's really hard. Like, it's really intimidating. These sellers are chewing them up and spitting them out. And then they come to me like, forget it, I want to go virtual. I want to go where sellers are nice. And they do. And they do. I'm telling you, in the Midwest, they're much nicer. So, again, it's like, there's always an exception to every rule. And I don't want you guys to like, oh my gosh, like this girl's just saying you can't invest in these places. You absolutely can. I'm a squirrel hunter. I don't want to.
Yeah. Okay. So picking the market, basically blue collar. For me, like I'm plugging TV commercials into other markets. So I'm doing it here in San Diego, and I'm doing it because I can get affordable commercials here and get a large reach. And we only need to do a few deals a year to make really good money in our market, right? So now I'm looking at smaller markets because I have people that are doing TV like you in smaller markets and just absolutely annihilating it. So for me, I really just use the size of the market. So I'm going into 3 different markets here, probably in the next 6 months with my TV commercials. And I pick those markets mainly because of the size, right? So I know that I can spend this amount of money and get potentially these returns. And then also I'm partnering up with people in those markets. So that's another reason as well. So when you look at other markets and you choose those markets, you kind of mentioned why you do. Tell us how hard or easy it is to set up a team, because obviously you're not looking at the properties. You're going to have to create a buyer's list. You're going to have to get people into the properties. So for me, I didn't like virtual wholesaling until recently because of, some of the things that I'm working on to make it make more sense, including the TV. If you would have asked me 3 months ago to go virtual, I would have said, no way, I do not want to do that, right? So tell us how you set up that market, how long it takes you, just kind of run us through the whole process.
So it's funny because I keep wanting to use this elephant analogy, but there's people say, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So totally different analogy, same animal. I'll try to throw in another elephant analogy by the end of this. So here's the thing. A lot of people think that they should build a buyer's list up front. They should set up a team. They need a team. They need a local guy. They'd start putting ads on Craigslist and Wise Hire and Indeed, for a local AM. And I'm telling you, no, you don't need to do any of that. You don't even need to do any of that. Okay. The first thing you need to do is just find somebody to JV with. Super easy. Find someone local who knows what they're doing and JV with them.
Before or after you put a contract together?
You can do it before, because you want to start asking the JV some questions. Like, I like to figure out where are the good zip codes to market to. Is there any local nuance I need to know about? Okay, so a local nuance could be, did you know that you can't market properties that you have equitable interest in this market? That's local nuance. Like you wouldn't know, did you know that you have to have a license? You have to have a wholesale license here. Did you know that, this is a fun one. Took me like 5 hours to figure this out. And then one phone call, someone told me in 5 minutes. Did you know that during COVID, it was not, escrow offices and title companies were non-essential. They're considered not essential. So no deeds got recorded basically that year. So when you're pulling data, like you're trying to figure out the absentee owners that have purchased in what zip codes in the last year, nothing's going to pull up because nothing was recorded. Things like that.
That's crazy that there are areas that's non-essential. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes, I found that out. And so and I was like, well, it makes sense. Cause I was like, my data's not making sense. I'm doing all my tricks that I do. And this is where I was like stumped for like 5 hours. Like I was like on a Saturday, like trying different list providers. Every list provider was like coming up with the same result and couldn't figure it out. Then I had to call like several people. And then I got the right person that like knows our business. And was like, oh yeah, no, it's because like deeds, we're just like backlogged on recording the deeds.
That's crazy.
Okay. So local nuances are important. Like in Florida, for example, newer homes, you can actually wholesale houses that are newer, like 2010, houses are newer in Florida. There's a lot of new houses and you could make a lot of money wholesaling homes like that. But a lot of people, they cut out the new homes. They only do like the older houses, right? Like,
and why do you think Florida is easier to wholesale newer homes?
I think it's just there's more new development, and then there's older people that go there to retire, and then they pass away, and then the heirs get them. So nuance, just all these little nuances that, like in Nashville, did you know that people are building homes? Like, so this house that you're putting an offer on, I wouldn't have known this had I not talked to somebody in Nashville. I would look at a home and I would do maybe the typical, like, okay, what do I think this house is worth to a landlord buyer, or if somebody was going to fix and flip it mentality. But no, it's how many units can you build on this lot? I would have never known to look into that and learn, the zoning codes. Mm-hmm. Right. So you need to find that JV partner up front and have those conversations. And don't just find one, find like 3 JV partners, because there's a lot of people that pose like they know what they're doing, or they think they honestly do think they know what they're doing, or just people have different skills and different, buyer bases. Like some wholesalers like understand development and flipping, and they have all the flipper buyers. And then some have all the Section 8 buyers. Like they know the landlords, they know the Section 8 guys. Like, so it's important to have multiple JV partners that you can lean on, and you just do some JV deals at first until you start feeling it, like you could handle a transaction, the local escrow company, the best escrow officer in town, like you start feeling comfortable.
So if someone wants to find JV partners, do you recommend they interview, let's say 3 JV partners, start sending deals to one and have 2 on the back burner, or send the deals to all 3 and have them all market the property? And by the way, JV's joint venture, I'm sure most people understand that. So it's basically utilizing them and their buyers list to do those deals, right? Uh-huh. So do you recommend all 3 marketing those deals, or do you choose one, utilize them, and then have the other 2 as backups?
That gets really tricky. So it's a small town. Like people will notice if multiple JVs are marketing your deal with different pricing and whatnot. So I try to avoid that. Instead, I like to have the conversations, and you start like feeling like a better vibe with one of them. It's just kind of natural. Like at first you're like, actually, I think this is my person. And give that person a shot, but let them know, like, we're not getting married. Okay. Like if you've got 2 days to tell me you've got buyers that you can walk into this house. And if like you can't, then I have to give this to another person, like, cause tick, like, I don't want to eat up my contingency dates. So,
so it's kind of like, it's kind of like hiring an employee, right? Like they tell you they can do what they can do, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Usually within like the first week to 30 days, whether they're going to work out, right? Because they're following through, they're doing their thing, you're jiving with them and that kind of thing. And then obviously if it's not working out, you just move on to the second JV partner that you've interviewed, give them a shot. And then I'm guessing, I hate to say it, but it's probably kind of like, dealing with contractors sometimes, right? It's just trial and error. You got to maybe weed out 2,
Yeah.
3, 4 JV partners before you find a good one.
I've had students tell me, like, complain, like, oh my gosh, I just think, you know what it is? I think wholesaling is dead in Kansas City. I just think you can't do it here. I think, there's too much competition. It just doesn't work here. And then they switch their JV partner and they come back and they're like, oh my, okay. It was the guy I was working with didn't know what he was doing. He kept saying, like, the common thing is the JV says, no, you've got it too high. You got it too high. I can't move that. They can only move houses that are 25% off or 25% of value. Like, but they can't move anything else. Like, so then they trade a JV partner. I had a girl do that in Philadelphia. She was like struggling. And then she met like the right guy. And it was like, bam, she tied up like several deals all in 1 week. And it was because that JV partner like looked at all of her, like he gave her a little help. Like he looked at, the top maybe 10 sellers that she was really working with, that she felt like they were motivated, but like the pricing wasn't quite right according to JV number 1. And then that JV was like, actually, I can move those. You can come to me in Oklahoma and there'll be plenty of people in Oklahoma that might say, oh, I can't move that. I can't move that. Bring it to us and we can, because we have a good buyers list, So yeah, the very important step.
Got it. Okay. So I've got some questions that have come in. I'm just kind of waiting for Q&A. So I'm going to jump into those. Is there anything else you want to add before I kind of jump into just some Q&A with
Let's
some of the
do
people we got on here? All right, sweet. So one of the things, so you said nuances. So Illinois is one of those states that you have to be licensed to do wholesaling now. And I'm guessing that some other states are going to follow. So Jay asked, which states as of now you would not wholesale in. So Illinois and to me would be the number one top market to not wholesale in unless you want to get licensed there. Are there any other states that you found that are not good to go in for any reason?
Honestly, I can't think of a state on a state level. It's more of like, I wouldn't go into this county, where it's high priced or whatever, but not on a state level. No. Because there are okay, I'm going to call them wholesaling as illegal states. That's not true. But, where there's some laws in place on how you can market your wholesale deals, people are still doing it and making money. They just figured out the workaround. So you have to figure out the workaround, whatever that is. If you have to get licensed, get licensed. If you have to partner up with somebody who has a license, do that. Do you have to close on the properties? That actually is nice. You know what? Because that is going to knock out a lot of the newbie people who can't close on properties. There's a state of New York, nuance about New York I learned. High price market. So there was another question I saw, was like, what's the absolute highest price market? In New York, there is a market in upstate New York around 350,000, right? Way higher than I would recommend. However, there's a really cool nuance about New York, and it's actually a barrier to entry, and that's why I like it. And it's because you have to put a large EMD down, and most people don't have that type of money. Most wholesalers don't. So it throws away all the, your competition that's like just trying it out and not really like, serious. I mean, a lot of people don't have that type of money to be able to put EMDs down.
And the other thing about New York is it takes a long time to close. So you have to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
You can't just do a contract directly with the seller. You have to, you can do it directly with the seller, but you have to have an attorney involved. And I think it's obviously because, New York just has all kinds of craziness going on that they don't want sellers to be screwed by people. So they, so they have attorneys involved. So you're right. That is a huge barrier of entry. And if you can find that barrier of entry, that's good. And another thing I'll add to that is finding lists. So if you can find lists that other people can't in different areas, then that is also very big. I've got people going into TV where lists are very hard to find. So you're going to have a lot less competition because people aren't buying the same lists and marketing to the same people. And so you have less investors. So when they go on TV, and they'll be the only investor on TV. So then, they could potentially dominate the market there. So
that's a really good one. Yeah.
All right, cool. A couple more questions. So John said Oklahoma will have that same law that you will have to be licensed.
It's probably going to pass, but from my knowledge of it, and maybe John, you know a little bit more, I think the final bill isn't out yet. So I'm waiting until the final version comes out. And then me and a bunch of guys have one attorney that we've been talking to that's staying up on it. And then once it gets passed, I will consult with that. We all are going to do like a group consultation and just figure out what the workaround is. Is it that you have to have a license? Is it just for me, I might just want to close on the properties, so that's my plan for Oklahoma.
Yeah. I need to connect you and John, because I think you guys are doing some of the same things in same markets.
Yeah. But that's
cool.
the one cool thing too about going virtual, guys. Cause honestly, I was like, oh, that stinks with Oklahoma. Like a good thing I have a few other markets that aren't in Oklahoma. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Adam's in New York. Awesome. Let's see, Chelsea. Actually, let me go to the first questions. So Noah says he got another lead from TV commercials. Noah's implemented our TV commercials. Awesome. Thanks for jumping in there. Let's see. Keith says, how do you structure your pay for your lead manager lead intake and why it's structured that way? And then what is the highest absolute average of the metro area you would go? Where would you draw the line?
Okay.
So so it sounds like, let's just start with the first one,
long.
lead manager and lead intake. So do you have someone doing the lead management and intake in your office, or does your JV take care of some of that? So kind of talk us through that.
No. So if your JV is doing all your acquisition type activities, then your JV needs to just basically get the entire fee. So we do everything on the acquisition side up to contract signature, and then you go to a JV partner and they do everything on the disposition end. So I do have, maybe you call them lead managers or lead intake. I call them sales reps. So my sales reps I have a couple that are virtual, and I have a couple, one that is actually local here in California. They get paid a draw against commission earned. So, when they first get started, obviously it takes a while to earn those commissions. So that's how I pay them. What else? And
then they get paid percentage of the profit on closing, or do they just get paid a flat fee upon closing?
No, they get paid a percentage. They do. And they're all on different commission structures. So I don't want to get too into it in case they're watching, but I will just say that I think for sales reps and people in that sales type position, it's very important that they have some sort of commission. And I think when you do a flat fee, that discourages better negotiating. So I think doing a commission is smarter. However, if you're not paying them anything, they don't feel like they work for you. And I've made that mistake. I've had people at first just straight commission, and they really feel like they could do whatever they want and that they don't, really owe you anything. Like you're not really keeping them honest or responsible for their work. So what I found is giving them that draw that kind of helps when the months are slow, that they always know you're going to get paid X, to keep you going, and then you get your commissions. But the goal is you have to always out earn your draw. And if you don't, then obviously this isn't a good fit.
Yeah. And if you start someone on 100% commission, I've tried that before and it just doesn't work out. They just get unmotivated because they don't see any money coming in.
They don't.
And then I've heard people doing a combination of the two, where they do a flat fee per deal, but then they also say, if you meet a certain profit, certain profit margin on a deal, then they get extra bonuses on top of that. So that could be a way to structure it as well.
Yeah. Everybody on my team pretty much gets bonused in some way, the disposition side as well. Like they get draws, but then they get commissions and they have to out earn their draw. It's part of keeping their job. So.
Yeah. So if I understand Keith's second question is, what's the highest average of the metro area? Are you saying, well, you can average, I guess you can mention both. What's the highest average price point, as well as kind of the population, if that's a determining factor as well?
The population wouldn't really be a determining factor as far as how high of a population. But I will say the more dense, usually the higher price or the more competitive with other wholesalers. So I have actually, with the students that I've had, I've noticed a trend that the ones that flock to the major metros their wholesale fees are lower. They're getting less deals. And it's just because they're competing with so many wholesalers. So my advice now is find a place that still has a healthy population, like at least 250,000, that still has, work, and the average house price is like maybe above 120,000. Like it's still a viable area, but is not like so well known that everybody, knows about it. So that was my advice to students now, because just you can't have everybody flocking to Oklahoma City, that did happen in Oklahoma City. I'm sure John can, commiserate a little bit. Like, it's like so many people flock to these metros. Indianapolis is another one. Like, so many people flock to these metros, and then it just kind of blows it out. So that's sort of my advice. And then the highest price, kind of back to my New York statement, that's a hard one to answer. I don't have one in my head, because I actually would do like this area of New York that like I'm thinking of, I would, which is, I believe, like 350,000 average house price. And it's because of that extra nuance. So I don't have, and it depends on the game that I'm in. Like if I were to get back into like Nashville, the average house price at that time, I think was like in the threes. And it was because there were new homes, and that was what I was doing. And I was getting into development. And so I don't have a total answer, but for like a newer student, the easiest is just your landlord markets that are like under 200,000. So between like sweet spots, like 130 to 200, somewhere between that. It's just easier. It's just an easier seller. So that's my recommendation if you're new. And then, you venture out, you try different things if you feel like it.
Yep. All right, cool. Chelsea has a question. Chelsea's in our TV program doing commercials in Texas and Wisconsin. She's getting so many leads, which I knew she would with TV. You guys know I love that. I'm not sure what to do because she cannot find good buyers or JVs. She loves Wisconsin for this reason of having so she has a good JV in Wisconsin. Ads are going awesome, but I'm finding that I cannot find as many buyers in the East Texas area. So what would you recommend for her?
Okay, so that kind of reminds me of my days in Tulsa when I got started there a few years ago. Chelsea's one of my students too. So there is a strategy that you need to make sure is kosher in your state. I might consider teaming up with a realtor and listing the contract, if that's okay, legal. So we've had to do that in the past, and that's what a lot of investors do in areas like that, where it's hard to find buyers in the traditional ways using the traditional tools. So that's kind of a little ninja trick that you need to make sure you're doing things the right way. You need to make sure your contracts are bulletproof, go seek an attorney, to advise you on this strategy. So that's one idea. The other idea, honestly, is like when you get a deal, just look individually in that area. You're not going to really rely on a JV as much. Pulling all the buyers in that area that are absentee owned, whether it's, cash or not, I don't really care, because people get loans that are still investors. So absentee own, and like call all the absentee owners. Hopefully you're going to land on some LLCs, more sophisticated investors, and figure out who are the local buyers in town. If the area has a decent population, there's going to be some local investors that might be interested in that property, especially if you got it tied up at the right price. So it's a little bit of an extra step for you, Chelsea, because you're now going to have like a runner in that area to like open up the door, meet the seller. But I pay runners $20 an hour. I find them on Craigslist. And you're going to have to find someone to help you actually make those calls. And that's something that I think you're busy, you're doing a lot. You might have to like hire help to help you dispo those types of deals.
Yeah, you mentioned listing on the MLS. I think that's great. If you can't list on the MLS for some reason because of your, state or area that doesn't allow you to do that, or the agent's broker, whatever that you work with. I have someone on here that's in my TV program, in my mastermind, and I mentioned to him, I heard what his wholesale fees were, And I said, you know what, you need to close on these properties, clean them up and wholesale them and just put them on the MLS and just let people fight over them. So a couple of deals that he told me about that he did on our last mastermind call was he was going to wholesale them for about $20K a piece. And by closing on them, finding private money, putting them in the MLS, I think he said he's going to make over $100,000 on each of those deals.
That's crazy.
And that's the best buyers list right there is, on the MLS, because agents are showing the prop. I mean, it's just going out to so many people, and then they know they have to come up with their best offer. And then you're going to find retail buyers, you're going to find landlords that can pay more, you're going to find investors that for some reason are able to pay more money. So that would be a recommendation too. And that's something I can help you with, Chelsea, as we do have a funding business as well. So if you can close on them, put them on the MLS, then that is pretty amazing.
I have a question for you, or in the student. Was the student virtual or was the student local? Like
actually, they were local. Okay. So yeah, that was the caveat I was going to say.
That's the caveat I want to say.
Yeah.
Is rehabbing virtual, even if it's a cleanup job, is hard. These contractors take advantage of you. So if you can pull that off, you need to be really like, you interviewed a lot of contractors, like you're really well connected in that area. The rehab part about going virtual is very difficult, even if it's like a cleanup job. So that's that was the caveat, is to make sure you have killer numbers so that if you do close on it and something happens, you're able to hold on to it for a little bit. But when I'm talking about wholesaling, I'm not talking about big rehabs. I'm not talking about major hoarder properties. I'm talking about properties that you can pay someone $500, $1,000 to go in and clean up and make the place look 10 times better just by cleaning it up and then putting it on the MLS. So yeah.
Yep. Okay, Keith, I hope we answered your questions with price points of single family houses, which is, Lauren, you said definitely below 200,000, but probably 100 to 150,000 medium price range is probably the sweet spot for some of the markets that you would recommend.
I know it's more 120 to 200 is the sweet spot.
120 to 200.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right, cool. Drew says when JV partner uses an agent to market and sell the deal, does the agent's commission fee come out of their portion or the total?
Total.
Yeah. I'm assuming
everybody's got to eat that. If an agent had to get involved, that's the cost of the deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How do you know the cities? So Jay says, how do you know the cities or markets, 200K population, that there's not high competition?
How do you know that there's not high competition basically in any market, really, right?
Yeah.
It's hard because you're going to talk to anyone and they're all going to say it's really competitive here.
Yeah.
Everybody says that, right? Like everybody says it's really competitive, like everywhere. So it's almost like you can't go off of what people say because it's how they feel, it's subjective. So I like to say this is when you're doing your JV research. So say you're thinking of a market. I always say, come up with like 3 markets and you're thinking about them. Try to get a hold of 3 people in those 3 markets, right? So now you're talking to 9 people. Okay. It's going to take you a week. And you're going to say, so like, how's it over there? Is it like super competitive? They're all going to say that, right? Yeah, it's really competitive. But then you go, well, how many deals are you doing a month? And if they give you a number that sounds good to you, and usually this is where they start bragging, like, cause they're all proud of themselves. They're like, well, but I do 5 deals a month, but it's really hard here. I'm just like, the elite, it always goes that way in that conversation, always. Then if you have that feeling, if this person can do it, so can I, like write that market down and give it like a check. Like, okay, this market might've passed that test, So that's what I tell everybody to do. It's very anecdotal advice. I wish I can say, you can go to PropStream, pull this list. And if the percentage of absentee owners to population is, under, 5%, then do it. I wish I tried that in like 20 markets. None of it made sense. Like there was no correlation that you could actually pull with data. So the best advice, and this is from like, just like, gosh, I think I've been doing this, 9 years, almost 10 years. Really is just proof of concept, is just talking to people in the area and are there people doing it. So like when I go to California, I don't know anyone really wholesaling deals here. Maybe Tony, you, but
Getting
Tony's
ready
like,
to.
huh?
Instead of getting ready to with our TV commercials.
Oh, okay. Okay. So even right now you're kind of over, like you're not doing, I know Greg Hellbeck, like I don't know that many people. And even Greg like will flat out tell you like, no, it's so competitive. He's in New York. So he's my friend in New York. He's in New York and he's in California. And he's like, hands down, California is way harder than New York. And it's mainly the seller psychology. Like that's why it's like the sellers are very aware of what they, the price of their home. So yeah.
So Michael in New York says, stay out of New York. Just kidding. But Michael teaches people how to do deals in New York. So.
Oh, that's cool. So maybe I'll come to you, Michael, if I ever want to venture in New York.
Yeah, Michael's in a couple of my mastermind groups. Good guy. So I can connect you guys if you want. Let's see. Adam says, in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, and Long Island, ridiculous, have put wholesales well over 1 million or $100 down. It's possible if you explain why we do that. 10K max on contract, as again, shit takes forever. So you're saying $1 million people put down on New York deals. So again, that's one of those things where I guess if you can put those earnest money deposits down and make that make sense, then you can get into that market. Oh, cool. Chelsea, you've already scheduled a call with our funding company. Good.
Ooh, Noah's comment actually, back to Chelsea. It was one I forgot to say, but we just kept going. Is calling the local agents. So another trick is calling the local agents in town if you can't find a buyer and see if they have a buyer.
Yeah, and they might shoot you a little more straight than some investors too, potentially. So let's see. Got a bunch of comments here. Andrew said our cleanup was paint and trash, 5 to 10K, but done fast. So that's what I was talking about, Andrew. Yeah. 120K profit on one deal and 100K on the other.
I know that is awesome. I think I would really like, if I were to virtual hotel, it would be a market where I really, really have like my people, like my network, my people, not just like, oh, I randomly got a deal in Wisconsin, which I'm not in at all, right? Like it would be like, no, if this is a place where I know people, I have property managers, I have like 10 people I could call, then I would maybe attempt it. But I don't know, every time I ever rehabbed virtually, I always said, I'm never going to do this again.
Yeah, it would have to be a very light hotel, right?
It has to be very light hotel. I had a contractor move into one of the houses. Like the contractor moved in and squatted.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so Dean says, what is your favorite virtual market and what are your best producing marketing channels? That's actually on my list here. I forgot to get into that. Marketing channels. So we know you're getting ready, you're getting into TV. Tell us your the marketing.
I mean, obviously TV.
Duh.
Okay.
Which Dean is already in. He's already in 3 markets, so on TV. Yeah. But what are the other marketing channels you'd recommend and any other virtual markets you want to talk about?
I don't give away any virtual markets, guys. I've got 250 students and each one would have my head if I gave a market away where I know someone's doing particularly well. And I feel like they're almost like, I'm like, this seems a little like it's because it's not competitive. So I don't give away markets like that. And my team would kill me if I told you guys the markets I'm in. I don't even go into it anymore other than Oklahoma because the cat's out of the bag on that one. I will say it's like markets change. Like your favorite this year won't be your favorite next year. That's what I noticed from experience. So that's why I love that I'm virtual, because I can go and just move on when a market feels like it's super saturated. Laws are getting passed, which sounds like, I guess a week ago that law got passed. So I got to phone some friends and see what the deal is. But, that's why I love going virtual. You can kind of pick up wherever, and go wherever you want. So best producing marketing channels, big fan of text message blasting and cold calling. All marketing channels I feel like work if you do them well, honestly. Like direct mail, some of our highest fees have came from direct mail because it's a different customer you're going after than the customer that checks a cell phone. So it's hard. I know you want me to give you one. For a while, it was texting. I'm only getting a little irritated with texting because of legislation right now. Texting's probably going to go away. Like I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to text. So I don't want to right now I'm an honest person. Texting, because of all the changes, it's such a moving target with TCPA laws and the phone carriers trying to block them. It's getting harder. But that for a very long time was my favorite because it was like the cheapest thing to do. Now I really do I'm hot for TV, guys. I'm really hot for TV. I haven't done it yet, but Tony's told me so much, and just knowing what I know, I was like, those numbers are good. Sign me up. Tony and talked to me for, I think 30 minutes before. I was like, yeah, no, let's do this. I think TV sounds really good because of the person it's going after.
Yeah. And is your commercial starting next week or the week after?
We're having issues porting the numbers, so I don't know. We got to push it. It was
We'll
supposed to already start.
Yeah, we'll have some data for you soon. So
yeah, we will. I will keep you guys all updated. I'm very excited. But yeah, the porting phone number thing was our hiccup.
Yep. Okay, so if you guys want to get a hold of Lauren, she does have a coaching program, so you guys can go. I made an easy redirect link for you guys. It's tonyjavier.com/virtual. Again, tonyjavier.com/virtual. If you want to learn more about her virtual wholesaling program, coaching, and all that good stuff, she teaches more real estate investors around the country and is dialed in on what is working on a weekly basis because she gets data from all of her students.
I do.
Awesome. So if you guys want to get in contact with her, you can go there. So let's see. I think there were a lot of questions that came through. I think we got most of them answered. If you guys want any other questions answered, please put them in the box now. Let me see if there's anybody on Facebook. I haven't checked that. See if anybody's posted there. Anything else, Lauren, that you want to touch on while I'm switching over there?
No, if you guys are interested in my coaching program, just if you're part of Tony, can you let me know in our welcome call that you are doing TV ads? Because I can help you with your sales funnel and how to manage those types of leads. So just remind me.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, let's see. We got something else came in. Lauren, yes, Lauren is coming to our mastermind in San Diego in July. Right?
Yay. Yes. Yeah. I do plan on it.
Yep. She's going to come speak in July. And if you guys have not signed up for that, tonyjavier.com/event, I believe.
I don't know how you remember this.
Oh, I don't know either. I try and make it easy on myself, but make it as short as possible. So yeah, /event, tonyjavier.com/event. We're doing a 2-day mastermind for experienced investors. It's going to be amazing. Lauren's going to come speak, and we have a lot of our I was going to do mostly our TV people and then just decided to invite mastermind people, but then I'm opening it up to some of my other following. So if you guys are doing deals, that's the biggest thing, is you guys need to be doing deals in order to come, because we want high level conversation and share what's working throughout the country and connect and create some good relationships and potential partnerships. So cool. Any last words, Lauren?
I don't know. What could I leave you guys off with? I hope I answered all your guys' questions. And like I said, a lot of the things that I say, there's always exceptions to every rule. So if you feel like I said something that's very just blanket statements, like don't invest in California. No, I do know people that have done very well in California. I did very well in California for a very long time until I just got, I wanted to go virtual. And I do plan on coming back if the market eases up a bit. And you, Tony, you do have me curious about trying TV ads because I don't know anyone doing it down where I'm from. So anyway, if you guys have any questions or need me to further elaborate or explain, drop it in the comments and I'll try to answer all of them. If you guys also just want to follow me on Instagram, I post a lot there. My handle is This Mom Flips.
Cool. I had a question on the tip of my tongue. I'm looking at the people that are on this call, and a lot of them are pretty experienced investors. They're either in my TV program. I can see several that are doing 50 to 100 deals a year, a couple doing over 100 deals a year. So if they are in their market and they are wholesaling and they want to take on another market, what is your thought on those people that are already established, or even someone that's getting into a new market? Once they get into a market and they do really well, when do you recommend for them to try a second market? Do you feel like there's kind of something that they need to have set up in their main market in order to jump into a second market?
Do at least 20 deals. You've got it down. You're not JV dependent. You're doing them. You have your own buyers list. You've got all your people in place. That market can run itself without you. So you have staff, you have people managing, your staff, then you can focus, because every new market is like a little baby, and it's going to take a lot out of you, and you need to figure it out. You need to take 6 months to really figure it out. From what I've noticed, it takes about 6 months to really feel like you've got a market figured out. So,
and it also depends on your team too, right? Because for me, we just plugged commercials into San Diego. Now we've got 3 other markets we're going to plug it into. And I've got a team that can answer the calls. They can do the lead intake. And then I'm finding JV partners on the ground that can do the deal. So honestly, I'm going to be pretty hands off. So for me, I don't mind, plugging in multiple markets at a time. So I think that's also a big thing is, how is your team set up? How can they handle the leads coming in? And then the JV partner on the ground, making sure you've got someone there that can, take it from, and actually the way that I'm doing other markets is I'm having my JVs do the acquisitions. I'm just driving the leads. So what I'm doing is I'm plugging my
your
TV.
deal's different. Your deal's different. And also they have a vested, because they're paying, right? They have money in the
contributing,
pot as well.
Yeah.
I'm more putting it in the JV doesn't have any money in the pot. And that's when you get JVs that don't work as hard for you.
Yeah.
So you're spending money, they're not,
So have you thought about doing it that way where they contribute to the ad spend to make them more committed?
I haven't really thought of that.
That might be a good idea.
I know. It just never occurred to me until me and you have talked a little bit, but
I think that'd be interesting to try out, because if you're sending them leads, they're like, yeah, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
But even if they have $500, just start with a low amount. Hey,
when they have to put money in it, that's different. Yeah. That's a really good point. It never occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
a good idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Well, we're perfect. We're right on the top of the hour. So again, Lauren, thank you again for jumping on and doing this for my people, my TV people, mastermind people, and my Facebook audience. Again, if you guys want to go to tonyjavier.com/virtual, you can connect with Lauren there and go to her Instagram at thismomflips, right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks, Lauren. Have a good one. Thanks everybody for joining.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Now go to www.remcommunity.com to connect with today's guest, see our high-level masterminds, and to get free resources. Don't forget to share this with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you on the next episode.